Okay.
Just in time.
Well, it's not technically the whole round, but we're definitely going to be discussing it.
So, Daniel, are you coming to all the rest of the classes?
I think I will.
Do you want all the homeworks and stuff? Like, do you want to do all that?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome, dude.
Since you're doing it all anyway, you might as well.
Yeah, I should. Yeah.
We'll get you a binder then.
Yeah, the binders are great.
Can you use this one?
Sure. Is it
It's on recording. Just make sure that you're in this view.
Make sure the what?
That you're centered.
Right.
But your full gorgeosity is in view.
No.
What? Full gorgeosity.
They're full ingorgiosity.
Do you want to, when he comes, go look at the doors after?
The outside.
Or I can. But, yeah, probably both.
Okay.
So what's happening? So
This, Renee's coming.
Oh, cool.
So we'll just leave the door open till he gets
Okay,
here
awesome.
and shut the lock.
sweet.
Yeah, I do.
All right. Oh.
Is it not recording left time?
No, I gotta put it in the battery here. I have it here. You wanna look at that? Yeah, you can just twist it.
Just one battery, eh?
Yeah. Right. ACI 16. Class 6. Losing track of them. Okay, so we are still reviewing ACI 3, which is meditation, and now we're moving into types of meditation and things we meditate on. Right. It's a mistake that is made, I think, still today in some places, that it's beneficial to try and meditate on nothing. Like just empty the mind, right? And that was actually my first idea of meditation, was that you just sit and try to empty out your mind and just like don't think anything. It doesn't really work out too good. But you can reach a state of meditation where your mind is quite quiet and there ain't nothing going on in there. But what is not happening is you're not benefiting your mind stream. And this comes from a story a long time ago in Tibet. there was Washang, right? Was he was everybody was following his lead on what to meditate on, and his whole idea was meditate on nothing, and that's how you meditate, and that's how you become enlightened. It's just simply by meditating on nothing. Empty your mind, think of nothing. Right? And Master Karmalashila came along, and he said that that's crazy. I don't agree with you at all. And so what they did back then is they had a big public debate on it. Like we've been doing this debate thing. Well, they had that's how they, instead of having wars, they had debates. Well, that's not true. They had wars too. But wouldn't that be good? They had this debate, and the story goes, the bottom line is, Master Kamalashila proved in front of everybody that if it was true that you could reach enlightenment or see emptiness directly, or whatever you might want, how you might put it, simply by focusing on nothing and letting your mind go blank, then why don't you just go to sleep? Why don't you just go get somebody to knock you out? Go unconscious. That should fix it. That should do it. And that's apparently how he won the debate. Everybody went, yeah, and then he it's big ooh, right? And at that point, because of the way that they had the political system then because he won the debate, then the whole country shifted on their axis, and they all started following Kamashila's advice on meditation. And it's the simple truth that your mind is blank. Your mind is a mirror. Your mind doesn't care what you do. It doesn't. Your mind doesn't think that. The mind doesn't have a problem if you don't like supper. Right? It's like the mind's got no. Delicious cupcake, by the way. Whoever thought that was. And my mind, your mind doesn't care about delicious cupcakes, right? But whatever you put in front of it, it absorbs, and it's like a mirror. So, and then you experience that. It's like it's a mirror in many ways. It's like what you put in it, it reflects. But it's also a mirror in many ways where it will give you whatever you want. It will give you whatever you ask for. But the thing is, you don't really realize you're always asking. Right? You're always asking. As we go through the day, all our actions, right? I was saying before, like we're always taking some kind of refuge. What was I saying earlier? No one's ever become totally enlightened by being a jerk, right? But we've sure tried, right? Well, we got what we asked for, right? Our reality is us trying to be. If you're in a suffering realm, then it's being projected. Your mind is projecting it for you, and it is the reflection of you trying to be a jerk being a jerk to try and reach enlightenment. And so all that is it's a reflection of that. So it's very important hey Renee.
Hey John.
I got the app, the rain app. I put it on my phone.
Last night.
Pardon me?
We tried
I put it on my phone last night, the rain app.
Oh, you picked it up,
I like it. It's
Oh,
good.
cool, right on.
Sorry
for I'm late.
That's okay. I'm just going to keep rolling because we're
Yeah.
time constrained. So it's very important on what you choose to focus on, because that will then reflect your reality. And there are 3 types of meditations that we do in order to make that happen. And the first type of meditation we call, is single-pointed meditation. And that is where you simply set the mind single-pointedly on a single object or idea. An example of that would be if you're choosing to have an enlightened being as your object, right, or your Lama as your object. Then you would sit down and your whole job would be to try and clearly see this object in your mind. Like if you're, and at first you're developing your skill in that way. So at first, if your mind has got all this fog going on or lack of clarity going on, you do things like you'll build put up a silhouette or something of what you think the figure may be, right? And then you start filling in the colors. And you start doing it that way, and you make it more and more alive until you get to the point where you get the object to wink at you or something, right? You want to make it alive. You don't want it to be like a flat color thing that you're like a coloring book. You want it to be like a living image, right? To the point where not only do you see the image, but then you start to feel the warmth of the being, and maybe even smell the sweet fragrance of their body, of their holy body, right? There's a lot of visual, like in the esoteric tantras, there's a lot of visualization that goes on, and there's all these elaborate visualizations, and hopefully, you've had a great foundation and you've done your sutra really well, and you've done years of meditating and practicing, so that by the time you get to these types of meditations, you can call up these potent images without any difficulty. And I don't really know, like I said, there's not a lot of people that have reached like high states of meditation. It takes a lot of work. So there's probably a lot of people that are practicing, trying to visualize deities, but they don't have a lot of clarity, right? So that's the first kind of meditation, single-pointed meditation. The second kind of meditation is a great meditation. It's called a review meditation. And this is the kind of meditation where you sit and you make connections in your mind. Or like, say, a nice review meditation would be, remember the 7-step cause and effect meditation we did on cultivating bodhicitta? It's, you go through this process of convincing yourself that every living being has been your mother at one point, right? And so a review meditation on that would be, you go into meditation and you would try to get a very, very clear idea on all the steps. And then you go backwards and forwards, right? You'd sit there and go, okay, here I am, I have bodhicitta. How did I get bodhicitta? Oh, I wanted to take personal responsibility, right? For helping all living beings. Well, how did I get that? Well, I realized that I wanted to take all the suffering away from all my mothers. How did I get that? Because I wanted to give them every good thing. How did I get that? Because I wanted to repay their kindness. How did I get that? Well, because I thought about their kindness, right? And you keep going all the way back to that till you get back to zero, and then you go, what was the first step? What's the first step? Equanimity. And you go to and you go back and forth like that until you have it so ingrained in your mind. That's your meditation, and you find out where your holes are, where you're not quite clear on the meditation or the steps, right? That's a great way, like to memorize those things backwards and forwards, so that you can land at any spot on that. Like you say, you land on loving kindness and know exactly where you are, forward or backward, right? So that's how you create, like, you habituate yourself, so you're creating, see, while you're doing that, you're inputting that data, right, into the hard drive, right? You're inputting that data into your mind. That in and of itself, whatever. I'll use it. Right? And it will use it. It will store it, build it, and give it back to you. Bigger and better, right? The next kind of meditation is called, can we open the door? Because it's probably going to get hot. Yeah. This room's been getting really smoking hot. Yeah. So finally we come to the third type of meditation, which is analytical meditation. And this is your meditation where it's a problem-solving meditation, where you would set a question in your mind and go at it with your analytical. And this, I'm telling you, this is such a great meditation to do. You know these debates we've been doing? A great thing to do is debate yourself in your mind. And you make yourself the attacker and the opponent. And you flush out what you don't know, right? Because as you go along your path, you're going to come up against ideas that seem a little crazy to you. Like, for instance, we're not going to talk about it anymore now, Daniel, but right, that would be good, right? So we had this really great little interaction, and a great analytical meditation. You go home and you sit down and you think about what I said, you think about what you said, you think about the object, and you just go. You try to sort it out. You have this battle in your mind that is very fun, and there's no investment in it. It's just you're going after your ideas, and that is the beauty of the Tibetan Buddhist teachings, is that they don't ask you to ever really assume anything. They're saying, well, here's an idea, try it out. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, what harm can come of it, right? You know, the stuff that they preach is, you know, be kind to others at the very basic. So, I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Right? The worst that could happen is that, you know, you don't get enlightened and you're a much nicer person. But like an example of that, like we say things like, you know, is your job the cause for money, right? Is having a job the cause for money? And then you go up against it in your mind. Well, could that be true? Could that be true? Another one is, we'll get into this not today, but we will at one point get into proving to ourselves that there must be past and future lives. And there's a certain proof for that. And it's very ridiculously, stupidly simple. But the mind resists, right? So that's great. You put it in front of you. Okay, past and future lives. And then what you do is you put up all your arguments against it. It's great. It's great. You try to think of all the reasons why it couldn't be. And then you logically go against it and go, no, it works this way. And your mind becomes so sharp and clear about the ideas. And when people come up to you with something they want to talk about in Buddhism, you're just there, like, and you can go backwards and forwards and everything, and you can quickly suss out where their mind is resting with the idea, and then you can quickly assess where you agree, and go from there and know exactly what to present and what not to present, because you've already gone up against all your ideas that were probably their ideas, because everybody pretty much thinks the same things about them, you know? Yeah. So those are the three types of meditation. And essentially the idea is, and this has worked a lot for me, is you'll do some analytical meditation on, it could be a meditation on the fact that how it is that this pen couldn't exist from its own side, right? It could be just that, and you put the pen up in your mind and you say, okay, looks like a pen to me, you know, and you go and you come up with all these proofs. Well, if someone else saw it, it would look different. You go this and that, you grab it and all this, and then hopefully what happens is you have this moment where you go, and you have this breakthrough moment, and then you shift it you shift it from being an analytical sort of movement meditation, and then you clamp down, and you shift it into single-pointed focus, and then you do an emptiness meditation on the emptiness of the pen, but you've done your analysis that has shot you into, you're just contemplating it, and you've done your work, and you're just sitting there with that amazing truth just in your mind, and you're just focusing on it, and it's changing your whole reality. 65, right? Every time you snap your fingers, that's 65 movements of the mind. So that's like 65 karmas planted. So you're sitting there, right? That's like, I don't know who can count that fast. But that's like, I've probably already thousands, right? Where you just have this thing of the emptiness of the pen, and you understand, and you're just like, and you're just putting it in there. You're just burning it in there. And that's how you get to see things directly, just like that. And does your mind carry the way? Nope. Your mind's completely neutral. Your mind doesn't think anything's right or wrong. It just soaks it in. That's how it works, right? So what to meditate on? What to meditate on? So we're going to talk about the Lam Rim. One of the most, if not the most, powerful and important meditations to do is a Lam Rim meditation. So no one here can tell me what Lam Rim means, because it doesn't mean anything.
Yes.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yes. No.
Oh, no, it does mean something.
Yes.
Okay. You can't tell me what it is.
Steps on the path.
I didn't say shok yet.
Oh.
You can't tell me what it is.
No.
You can tell me what it is.
Yes.
Shok!
Steps on the path.
Yeah. Steps on the path to enlightenment. But steps on the path, basically. The Lam Rim is steps on the path to enlightenment. Yeah.
That is confusing.
It is. It is. It's good, clean fun right there.
Yeah.
Right? So the steps on the path to enlightenment. And they really are that. They are a bunch of beautiful sequential steps that you can take, point A to point B. And here, the Lam Rim has been, as they say, tested, right? It's been tried and tested. It was spoken by an enlightened being. It was laid out. Jason Kappa did us a great favor by laying it all out perfectly and purely. And between the time the Buddha spoke it and this very moment, many beings have used it and got great benefit from it, and actually achieved the total goal by using these steps. It's important to know that, and it's important to prove that to yourself somehow, that the sources are authoritative, because there's a lot of spiritual practices out there that aren't quite complete, right? They have a lot, but not quite complete, right? If you go to, and you have to follow the instructions carefully. Like if you go to a place like, IKEA, right? And then you get something that's in a box. It looked a certain way in the store, but when you pick it up, it's in the box. And it's got instructions inside it, right? They're pretty simple. They've got little pictures of guys, and there's like, no, don't do this, and pictures of screws and this, and if you follow the directions, and a lot of people find those IKEA instructions very confusing. I get calls all the time. Yeah, I just bought this. I bought this this thing from IKEA, and can you help me put it together, right? And most of the time, what they've done is they just started putting it together. They took it out of the box and they just started putting it together, and they just open up the plastic and screws are all over the floor, and there's like this and that, and they're halfway through, and then they're just completely lost, right? I always open up the instructions and read them all the way through first, right? Because I don't know if you've ever done this. You put something together, and then you've got it all together, but there's like a couple screws that didn't get in there, right? And you're like, okay, something's not quite right. So the Lam Rim is complete in that the instructions are complete, and the only way that the instructions can fail you is if you fail the instructions. In other words, if you don't follow the instructions, right? There won't be any screws left over. It's like there won't be any mental afflictions left over out of the box, right? You become enlightened with no afflictions, like walking around. How did that happen? I thought those were supposed to be gone. Yeah. So doing a Lam Rim meditation, what you're doing is you're ingraining the steps on the path in your mind, from point A to point end, right? And the interesting thing about how do you know, right? How do you know that the spiritual manual is working? When the very a kind of person that you're trying to become, or the thing that you're, right, so you're trying to fix your mind, right? You're going into this Lam Rim and you're trying to fix your mind, right? Or fix the state of your being so that you're wholly in love, happy. But the problem is, the thing that you were trying to fix is trying to convince you not to fix it, right? Your ego will put up a nasty fight, and a very convincing fight. It will come up with all kinds of reasons why it's much better to watch Netflix than meditate. It will come up with all kinds of reasons why you should put your money into a new car versus 30-day retreat, right? It will make perfect sense to you at the time, right? Yeah, it will even go so far as to be whiny when your lama calls you to go get teachings. What? Haven't I done enough? What do you mean I gotta get on the ferry again, right? Gotta go get another course? Haven't I had 20 of them now, right? It's the mind that just fights to the end, right? Yeah. So it's tricky. It's a little tricky, and that's why we have to do all these things of continuously proving to ourselves that it's of great benefit. And also, as much as hard to believe as it is that we haven't pulled it off yet, as hard to believe as it is, everything we've done so far hasn't quite worked out, right? So there is definitely no harm in trying something different. Right? Definitely no harm in trying something different. So the beauty of the Lam Rim is that the beings that put that together know everything about our minds. So they put things in front of us to consider so that we keep waking up. Like, for instance, considering that we don't know when we're going to die, right? They put that in there. Like, well, hey, I know it's hard, and I know there's lots of good things that you could be doing, but, you're going to die. You don't know when either. All right? Then for a second you're like, oh yeah, right, and you get down to work, right, and then maybe maybe things get hard for a second, and then you start to lose your equilibrium or something, and then you get whiny about the fact that you're having to work this hard or something, and then they pull out how good you have it right now. Don't waste it. Right? You don't know how long it's going to last. You could be very sick very soon. Won't get to practice. And you're like, oh yeah, damn it. Right? Then you have to get back to work. Your leisure and fortune. Right? Your leisure and fortune. Unbelievable leisure and fortune. So before we talk about how it rolls out, I'm just going to mention all the subjects that are covered. So in the ACI, which, just to briefly mention what they are. So the Lam Rim, what it does is it encompasses, it takes the 5 great books of Buddhism, the 5 great books that are used in the monastery, and have been used for thousands of years, and puts them in a nice contextual, linear way of understanding how to get to reach full enlightenment. And there's a lot of details, so it's of much benefit to try and understand all the subjects. And it's amazing, they really are all here in the ACIs from 1 to 18. So the first, one of the first books is the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. And this is the study of the lower half of the middle way school, right? They take 12 years on that in the monastery. 12 years. So we're so lucky, right? Because Geshe Makarocha has drawn out the essence of what he thought will take us all the way and given us that. And then, so that's the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. And then there's also the Middle Way, Majjhimika. And this is the study of the upper half of the Middle Way, right? They're the ones that are saying that there's nothing out there that isn't coming from its own side. That is coming from its own side. Sorry. That you're projecting your whole reality. And that it functions perfectly as your reality. Pain and pleasure. Pain and pleasure, it's all happening. It's just happening based upon your projections, upon your acts from the past. But it's definitely happening. And the middle way also consists of mind-only school teachings, right? And that's 4 years in the monastery of that. So we got 12 years on Wisdom Sutras. We've got 4 years in the middle way. And then vowed morality, monks' vows, nuns' vows. That's 2 years in the monastery. And then Abhidharma Kosha, or higher knowledge. That's a cool course. That's like, it talks about the formation of the world, and it talks about death and realms of existence, parts of the mind, time. Basically Buddhist cosmology, right? Karma, meditation, mental afflictions. That's 2 years in the monastery. And then they do sema, or logic and perception. And logic and perception is all what's this whole thing we're doing. It's a logical way of getting to the truth really quickly, right? It's a debate. So every year in the monastery, 3 or 4 months is put aside to just logic and perception. And very, very important and very powerful, because at some point, faith is going to fail you, right? At some point, faith is just not enough. Your teacher will do something that just seems ridiculous, right? And it could blow your faith, or anything could happen, right? Logic is what allows you to tear apart your ideas that aren't helping you and help you see why it's possible that your lama, that your teacher, could be an enlightened being, right? Why it's possible, why it must be that you have past and future lives, right? How it is that death is beatable, right? How it's, in one way it's certain, and another way it's beatable. and how, all these things, prove to you that just because you're going to work doesn't mean you're going to get money, right? Things like that. Makes you a very, very strong practitioner. If you debate in your own mind and debate others, and this is the great thing about having people in your community that are trying to figure this stuff out, because you hash it out with each other. You say, well, this doesn't really make sense to me, and you go at it with each other, and you try and come to a truth about it. What do you mean the Buddha's omniscient? How's that? That sounds just insane to me. How's that possible? And you just talk about it. What do you mean the Buddha's beyond time and space? And you talk about it. What do you mean past and future lives? And then both of you can bear in your own understanding, your highest understanding of it, and then come together and both be better for it, right? And that's all from logic. That can also be from logic. It doesn't have to be because my Lama said so. It shouldn't be because my Lama said so, really. On one, it's like, we'll get there, but on one level it should be because my Lama said so. On the other hand, it should be not because your Lama said so. It's because you have the logic to understand why you should do what your Lama says, not just because he said it. I'll leave you with that. So, the very, very beginning of the Lam Rim. No one here can tell me. Well, let's consider the first step in the Lam Rim. Let's consider the first step in the Lam Rim. The first step on the Lam Rim is the first step that you take as a baby.
No.
So the first step you take as a baby is not the first step of the Lam Rim? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
So there is a step involved in the Lam Rim,
Yes.
but it's not the baby step.
That's right.
It's some other step.
That's right.
You can't tell me what the first thing to do in the Lam Rim is.
No.
You can tell me.
Yep.
Sure.
Taking a Lama.
The teacher, yeah. You need a teacher. The source of all your good, they say, is your teacher. And Jason Kappa, who was the teacher of the first Dalai Lama, who put Buddhism all back together when it was blown apart before his time, he wrote the Lam Rim Chenmo. It was like 10,000 verses, right? Which no one could understand. And then so they asked him to write something shorter, and then he shorted it to 1,000 verses, and then no one could understand that either. so then he shortened it again. I think down to, I can't remember what the number is. Maybe it's 14 verses, but no one could understand that either. So then he finally shortened it down. No, this is it.
This is 14.
Yeah, that's 14. So then he finally shortened it. So somehow he took 10,000 verses and distilled it right down to the source of all my good, which is 14 verses, and I have it right here. Do you have the source of all my good? Yeah. You haven't memorized yet?
I had it.
You had it.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I still do.
It's a great thing to memorize. Basically what it is, it's the whole Buddhist path from beginning to end. And if you're interested in it, I'm sure you'd have a file for it?
On the computer?
Yeah.
I think you sent it to me once.
Oh, okay.
You have it in your book, right? Yeah. I have it in my wallet.
Okay. Well, anyway, Sonia is the source. Sonia and Dave are the source of all things like Tibetan Buddhist. So if you're interested in getting a copy of the Source of All My Good, it's a really wonderful wonderful thing to memorize. It's a meditation within itself, actually. It is the Lam Rim meditation. It's from point A to point B. I mean, point A to point end. So in the beginning, it's the teacher. If you don't have a teacher, you just won't push yourself enough. We're just too, I don't know, a combination of just a little bit too content and just a little bit too concerned about our ego. You know, we just won't. We just won't. I would never have done the things that I have done in my practice if it wasn't for my teachers. No way. I definitely wouldn't be sitting here. Definitely not. No way could I be here without my teachers. Absolutely not. They have pushed me the whole way. And that your teacher is someone who is worth your time investigating, because you don't just want any teacher, right? We went over the 10 qualities of a Lama a few classes ago, but this should be someone who you believe can sincerely help you and has attained some high realizations about reality, you know, has or very close to like finishing off something or something like that, or if not already done, you know. And it should be someone who you have like an unexplainable heart connection with, right? An unexplainable, very close heart connection with, who you trust, because this person it's their job to take you from being kind of like a beginner with kind of a gross a gross state of mind as far as what the ideas are, and then putting just enough in front of you all the time so that your mind refines. And then they have to be so kind of far ahead of you that when you're getting close to being done and it's coming down to a few subtle little adjustments, right, in your subtle body, or a few little ideas in your mind, they should be able to see that and say, okay, you're doing this a little bit too much right now. Maybe you should drop that, you know, and maybe focus on your, who knows, it could be your Visuddhi chakra. Maybe they want to, maybe focus on your throat chakra for a while, because I see this is going on and it's affecting this and that. And, you know, stay with your throat chakra for a bit, and then I want you to go and I want you to do service at a church. Go volunteer at a church. Yeah, do that for a month, and then call me, right? And then you have to have the kind of mind that goes, okay, and you just do it, right? But like, who else is gonna sit there? Like, there's nobody else that's gonna sit there and hammer into your mind how reality is working. There's no one that's gonna like patiently, time and time again, try and make you understand that the person that is sitting right next to you, or whoever you're interacting with during the day, is every single living being. Right? They have this thing like, you know, have your focus on every single living being there is and send all this stuff out. Well, at some point, you can get a teaching and directly understand very clearly how it is that one person right in front of you with your direct attention is every single living being there is. Who else is going to do that? And when you don't understand that, who are you going to ask about that? Right? It's got to be someone who is very, very deep. And this person is not your friend. This person is not your uncle or your aunt, not your lover. Couldn't be your lover, but essentially, as the Lama or as the teacher, not your lover. Your Lama could definitely be your partner. But as a student-teacher relationship, the teacher is supposed to give you what you need, not what you want. And we just don't know that. We don't know what we need. If we knew what we need, we'd be doing it. We don't. So we need to be, someone who has started out, faced their suffering, gone up against their ego, had all the intense roller coaster of what that is like, all the highs and all the lows, sorted out their mind, come to a place of love, they've been there, and you're sitting in front of them, and they can just read you like a book, because they can see, because they're so higher, because they've done so much work, they can see where you're stuck. It's like reading a book. It's just like reading a book. You're like, and the compassionate teacher just won't say anything. They don't need to say anything. They just can know that and then just give instruction. Just give instruction. Say the same thing. Give instruction over and over again. Until finally the student understands. And along the way can come greatly resist, actually. Greatly resist. Teacher doesn't mind that. Teacher does not have any problem with the student's resistance at all. So, and the same idea, like when you do a Lam Rin meditation, if you're going to meditate on the source of all my good, for instance, and you did the whole meditation, it would be the same idea where you would do a review meditation of the whole thing, and then right when you were done, you would stop and just consider, right? You would go into that single-pointed focus after you've done that whole review. So there's 4 steps of the Lama meditation, okay? And the first step is developing faith and admiration in your Lama. So this is a step where this is happening all the time, actually, at 3 Joes. Where it's like everybody's like looking around for the teacher, right? Who's my teacher? Who's it going to be, right? There's some people that have their teachers, and there's some people who don't have their teachers yet, or they think they might see their teacher. They're not quite sure yet. They're a little timid, don't know what to do. That's like the shopping phase, right? You're like checking it out, and because it's a big commitment. It's a big commitment. It's they say it's 100 times more powerful and committed than marriage, right? In the sense that if you ask your Lama, if you ask someone to be your teacher, like capital T, teacher, and the teacher says, yeah, well, you're screwed then. You did